Why are so many women struggling with unhealthy relationships? Why is it so hard to find a man who respects you, who deeply cares for you, and who feels safe to your whole being? Well, I had these same questions for the majority of my life until I understood something really crucial. As long as I don't take care of my emotional wounds, I will attract the same men into my life and play out the same patterns over and over and over again. And what were the biggest wounds? The ones from the relationship with my father. The deep wounds that were created when he wasn't able to meet my needs, where he couldn't love me the way I needed to be loved. And I discovered the father wound. So I took a deep dive into the father wound. I took care of my emotional wounds, and the reward was a deeper relationship with myself and attracting not just one, but actually two very healthy relationships into my life, one of which I'm still currently in. Experiencing what it actually means to be fully loved, fully accepted, fully chosen, supported, and admired has absolutely changed my life as a woman. And in this video, I will share the signs that you're struggling with the father wound and what to do about it. So sign number one that you're struggling with the father wound is that you have issues trusting men. And that means that you're struggling in relationships with men, also friendships, to be emotionally open, to be vulnerable. And why is that? It is because if we have the father wound, we most likely are afraid that the men in our lives are not able to hold us emotionally, and that it's also just not safe to be open emotionally. And for me, that was a really, really big one in my relationships, because I had a dad who got very angry very quickly and who felt not safe at all. And because he didn't feel safe later in life, I did not trust men with my emotions. And actually only in the one I am in right now, I was able to actually open up. And in him, I really found a man who was so supportive and who held so much space for these emotions that I could open up so much. And it was also a really big lesson in opening up to my own feminine, because emotions are feminine. And if we are guarded in a relationship, if we have our walls up because we're afraid that the man is not gonna respond well to our emotions, that's a big red flag for us, but also that the relationship is not the one that is good for you. Which also comes back to, okay, why is that the case? Why am I attracting the kind of man? Which leads back to yourself and the wound that you have still from your father, from your childhood, that is unaddressed. If you hear father wound and you're like, yep, that's me, then I invite you to comment down below free guide, and I will send you the link to a free guide / free guided practice where I will guide you through shadow work. I will guide you through a session where we work with the inner child and see what is still hidden between you and your father, what is still in the shadows, what is still calling for healing, and yeah, to help you on your path of healing the father wound so you can attract healthy love into your life. Sign number two that you're struggling with the father wound is that you have low self-love, low self-worth, and that you may be seeking external validation, be that in material ways, be that in form of attention, be that in form of whatever gives you outside validation. So again, when we grow up with our father and he maybe doesn't give us the attention, the validation that we need as children, then later in life we will seek that from external sources, because we don't have that settled, strong sense of self-love and self-worth for ourselves. And because of that, we try to fill that void with external validation. And that's often in form of in relationships, in friendships, in general life, right? That we seek validation, and that can also be in form of sex. That can be it can have many faces, like you will know what I'm talking about if that's something that you're struggling with. For me, that expressed itself by wearing a shit ton of makeup. Like I had a phase where I was really, really into makeup, but not from a healthy place. Like I was into makeup because I wanted to cover up my face, because I felt insecure, and also because I was seeking this external validation of having other people liking me because I look a certain way. And also my eating disorder played into this, because by looking a certain way, you attract a certain kind of attention, and by dressing a certain way, and like all these things are ways of seeking external approval. But when we're talking about this, it's also important to note that we're humans, so external validation is also normal to a certain degree, right? But at some point it can get really not healthy, and especially if we put all our self-worth onto external validation, that's when that's not good. But if you have a healthy sense of self-love within yourself, and you're anchored in that, then yes, you know, like that's just how life works. Like there is exchange of validation, of attention. It's just life. But again, it depends on what place does it come from. Does it come from a wound, or does it come from, okay, like I love myself, and also I can, you know, have some external validation. That's okay. But yeah, if we're dependent on it, if we need it from an external source because we don't have it within ourselves, then it's a problem. Sign number 3 is that you are struggling to form healthy relationships with men, which I have done videos on already, so check that out. But yeah, if we have the father wound still active within ourselves, we struggle to attract men in our lives that meet our emotional needs. And if you are finding yourself over and over and over again in relationships with men who do not meet your emotional needs, where you feel stressed out, where you fight a lot, where you feel unsafe, where you feel like you cannot actually speak your truth, where you feel like you cannot actually open up because it doesn't feel safe, then that is a big ass sign that you're struggling with the father wound. Sign number 4 is fear of abandonment. So that was a very big one for me, because the fear of abandonment made me very anxious in relationships. Actually, it made me both. Like there were relationships where I was a bit more on the avoidant side, and there was relationships where I was more on the anxious side. And so when we experience abandonment in our childhood, we create these attachment styles that can be anxious, that can be avoidant, that can be anxious avoidant, meaning you have both, like I have, and or healthy. But healthy is, you know, that's not many. And so if you're in relationships and you notice that when there is a fight, for example, and you get really anxious and you're like, I need to resolve this right now because I physically feel anxious. I feel my heart is racing. I feel my mind is racing, all these things. Or you're avoidant and you're pulling away because you feel unsafe. That is a big sign that you're struggling with the father wound. What can also be a sign that plays into that is that you're chasing love. And that is actually also quite a common one, especially for women, that they're constantly chasing love. They're constantly chasing men, and they're trying to be in relationships with men that maybe are not even interested in them. And there is just this constant chasing of being in a relationship as well. Also, the fear of being alone is also a sign that women want to be in relationships all the time because they don't want to be by themselves. Also a big sign. So there are many, many signs why we're struggling with the father wound, or that we're struggling with the father wound. And also rejection plays into that, meaning that if you feel rejection in life, so be that in a job, be that in a relationship, be that in a friendship, in your family, whatever, then you get a really physical reaction. And I also had that a lot, where I would feel like my heart is racing, and just this really deep triggering. Like I was so triggered by rejection. And while today I'm like, I have myself, I love myself, I'm okay. If someone doesn't like want to be with me, that's like, it doesn't trigger me as much as it used to. Like back then I felt so dependent on being wanted by other people and being approved of by other people. And today it's like there is such a deep sense of knowing myself and being in connection with myself that it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter. So yeah, just when you're anchored in that knowing of knowing yourself, of loving yourself, then it doesn't really matter anymore. It doesn't really matter anymore. And you have this deep trust where you just know, like, people that are meant to be in my life are meant to be in my life. And anyone who doesn't want to be, like, bye. So my love, these are the signs that you're struggling with the father wound. And again, I've been there. I have been there. And I have managed to heal from my father wounds. I have managed to heal from my toxic relationship patterns, to attract the same men over and over and over again, to be stuck in the same loop. I have been there and I have made it out of it. I have attracted a healthy relationship where I'm so emotionally open, where there's from both sides so much emotional openness, and there's just so much deep love and nurture and respect and support. And I wish that for literally every woman on this planet. And that's why I have created this free guide that can help you really take a look at the relationship to your dad, see what's there, see what still needs healing, and to go into it and to come out of it more happy in connection with yourself, with your dad, with men. So comment free guide down below. I'm happy to send you the link. Thank you for watching, and I see you in the next one.